The man's name is Chip Hanauer. Chip, welcome to the show, buddy.
Great to be here.
Hey, it's good to have you in. And of course, Chip Hanauer, his legend is it's been very well documented. 2 Hall of Fames, the youngest person inducted ever into the International Motorsports Hall of Fame. He drove the Miss Budweiser, of course, and I mean, what a legendary... Joe, you saw a lot of this.
Oh, yeah. I'm a Seattle kid, and, before the Sonics, and the only game in town really was the Huskies, but summertime was Seafair and hydroplanes, and to be able to have Chip here in the studio, it's kind of it's definitely a Wayne and Garth moment for me. I'm ready to start saying I'm not worthy.
That makes me Garth?
Yeah, I'll go for Wayne.
So Chip, I just wanted to ask you that about your days at Wazoo. Let's go back to you're a Coug, and at 22 you graduated, correct?
I don't recall anything from WSU, and I do have a piece of paper that says I graduated.
A typical Coug.
Yeah, it's all pretty fuzzy. But I had a good time.
Well, I gotta say, Chip, I'm a proud Husky alum, and I bleed purple and gold, and the last few years I've been bleeding all kinds of colors, the way things have been going over there.
Yeah, and we enjoy that.
I know you do, but I had to let you know you're my favorite Coug, and the only other Coug behind you is, of course, is Dr. Dan, and that's about it.
Well, for a Husky saying I'm his favorite Coug, that's like of all the axe murderers, you're my favorite.
That's right.
You're my favorite one, man. You're the coolest.
So now what was the degree you graduated with?
I have a degree in education. I was a special education teacher, and I also have a minor in psychology, and I dealt with behavior disorder kids.
Can you help Double D out?
No, by the looks of things, it's beyond my help. So kind of a psych education blend kind of thing. And then I taught up in Port Townsend. My kids were in my class for their behavior, not for their academics. So I had kids that were virtual non-readers, and I had kids reading at the college level. So it was challenging.
Yeah, and I also know that since racing, you do a lot of volunteer work.
Yeah, I work with Children's Home Society, which is a residential treatment center for the kinds of kids that I worked with as a teacher. And then I'm also involved with the VA hospital. I'm a van driver that brings vets to the hospital who can't get there any other way.
That's a great thing, and like I was talking to you earlier, that Daryl and I are our Metro guys, and we've driven the route up to the VA hospital, and a lot of those guys need that care and that help. And just an aside, my father-in-law is at the Renton VFW, and he's in their color guard, and I think they're doing with the World War II vets about 5 or 6 funerals a week out at Mount Tahoma.
Wow.
Yeah, we're losing them very, very quickly, and it's been a real honor for me. I mean, I've had guys in my van that were prisoners of war of the Japanese, of the Germans, and the stories they tell are simply amazing. So it's a real privilege. I encourage anybody, if you have time at all, there's all kinds of volunteer work that's available at the VA hospital, and it'll be one of the most enjoyable things you've ever done.
So I have to ask you, though, when you have a van full of these guys, you're motoring around, and we live in Seattle, Tacoma area, it rains a lot. Are they ever measuring the rooster tail?
No, it's kind of funny. They kind of, after a while, they kind of stare at you, and they can kind of place the face, but they're not sure where. And then usually you bring him to the hospital, and then you wait till the last guy's had his procedure done, and then you take him back. About halfway home, somebody will go, "You're not that hydroplane guy, are you?" So then
they're like, floor it.
Yeah.
I was going to ask if they were going to be telling you how to drive.
Oh yeah, no, I get that too.
Well, didn't you take a year off and do some actual race car?
Yeah,
work?
I drove for the Toyota factory in the road racing program. There used to be a series called the IMSA series, which did 24 hours of Daytona, 12 hours of Sebring, and that kind of thing. So I did Toyota for 1 year, and then they decided to go to IndyCar and Formula One, so they dropped our program, and then I started driving privateer Porsches for guys that were non-factory.
Now, from what I understand, things I've read, wasn't that actually your first love? It was
car
racing?
I grew up loving car racing, bow racing really didn't appeal to me all that much. But when you grow up in the Northwest, there's not a lot of car racing going on here. And really the only motorsport that was available was outboard racing. So I started racing outboards and just kind of stayed at it and ended up I quit when I went to WSU. I was going to get a real job, and I was in no state to drive anything when I was at WSU.
A lot of people quit when they go to WSU.
Right. It's best to quit driving anything when you attend WSU. And then I intended to never race again, and then I started teaching in Port Townsend, and some opportunities came up, and I thought I'll give it another whirl, and never went back.
I've got a driving question for you, Chip. I was reading something that I think it was early this year that you were over in Tri-Cities and you drove a Zamboni.
Yeah, I drove a Zamboni. I've always wanted to drive a Zamboni. Actually, they asked if I would come over and do some deal with the Americans, the hockey team over there. And I kiddingly said, I'll only do it on one condition. I get to drive the Zamboni. And they went, okay. So actually, we did a pretty funny videotape. I don't know if you saw if that's up there.
I haven't seen it.
But the guy that was the Zamboni driver didn't get me at all. And I was asking him, there's this big rotor that cuts the ice, and then I asked him, for example, if I should shut that off before I reach in to grab the ice. He thought that was a good idea. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I liked one of your quote was warm water freezes faster than cold water. Who knew?
Yeah, well, I asked him about that. He said, well, of course, hot water freezes faster than cold water. And he went on, and then I thought about that for a second.
Like, how does that work?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Apparently, that's true.
Okay, well, I do have an offer for you. That article, I read that article, and towards the end, you said that one of your big goals or dreams was to dress up as a goalie and take some shots.
Yeah, I think if I couldn't have been a race driver, I would have liked to have been a downhill ski racer or a hockey goalie, which is funny because I've never played hockey in my life, but I'm so in awe of hockey goalies. I mean, that to me looks like the hardest thing to do in sports.
Well, my wife is Canadian, and we actually have a bunch of hockey equipment in the garage, so when we're done, we can go out in the yard. I can fire some at you.
I'm used to having attractive women throw things at me, so that'll work out great.
We have a guy who just walked in the studio. He's not mic'd up. Do you recognize this guy at all right here? Does he look vaguely
He looks
familiar?
like a guy who owes me money. That's what he looks like.
You were on his program at one time.
Oh, really?
This is formerly Captain SeaTac, Ron Smith.
All right.
From Q13.
Good to see you. Yeah, I dated an anchor there at Q13, Windy Man. She and I went out for a long time.
All right.
No, I'm sorry. She was 11, not 13.
Guess 11 years old?
Not age-wise.
No. She was 11. That's what.
She was 11. Okay.
But she was a mature 11.
That's good. It's always good to have.
She was
mature
not your
girls.
typical 11-year-old.
Developed well past her age.
Chip, I've got to ask you a follow-up car question. Both in your personal driving and in your race driving, do you have favorite cars that you've driven? My favorite car that I just got rid of which is when I tell people this, especially young people who are horribly disappointed, I had a 1990 Buick Estate wagon with fake wood on the side that was peeling off and would flap in the wind. And I loved that car. It was the greatest car I've ever driven, and it was just kind of getting bad. So I'd say that was one of my favorite cars ever. And all race drivers I know, very few of them, actually good race drivers, they always drive just big, comfortable boats, because we get all of our performance. Race cars are horribly uncomfortable. Race boats or race cars, they're horribly uncomfortable. They're violent, they're loud, they're obnoxious. So why people choose to drive those on the street, I have no idea. Right,
I think they think they're going to get laid by driving those things.
You just want to go to something low-key, relaxing.
That's right. And the Buick was actually better for getting laid even. Chicks dug it.
Fold that back seat down.
Oh,
yeah, ready to go. Well, let me ask you about your public speaking right now. You have there's a website that you have out there where people can book you. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I do a lot of corporate speaking. I've always offered somebody a prize. In fact, let's throw that out here on the Convergence Zone. A prize to come up with a title other than motivational speaker because I can't stand that. But that's what they call you. But yeah, I really enjoy that. It's a chance for me to talk about what